So today we're going to talk about multi-platform data strategy with DBT. I'll quickly introduce myself, Ramesh Madepalli. I'm a senior director at Fox Corporation. Can you all hear me okay? Sorry. Okay. I oversee architecture and data strategy, and I lead the data foundations group at Fox. Coming to today's agenda, we're going to talk about multi-platform data strategy, why it is important for enterprises to adapt to a multi-platform data strategy, the DBT's role in that, how DBT helps us get there, and how Fox implemented the multi-platform data strategy and benefited from it. Again, we are in the process of that journey. And as with any transformative journey, there are lessons learned. So what lessons we learned during this journey and how we kind of move forward with that. Okay, so the question, can enterprises rely on one data platform for all their data needs? Let's say your data science team loves using Databricks, and your BI team on business users like Snowflake. And let's say you're on AWS Cloud or GCP Cloud, and your engineers like using some of the core services for data processing. Do you want to limit all of them to just one platform and force all your users to that platform? You don't have to. There are many choices. So the data landscape has been changing so drastically. For most of you who have been in the data space, you all saw how the data landscape evolved over the years. It started with the traditional operational data stores and data warehouses on the traditional relational databases. And then we moved to massive parallel processing data warehouses. And now we are talking about multi-platform data lakes and lakehouses. But clearly in the last decade, with the emergence of cloud technologies, tech and the underlying infrastructure is no longer a limitation. It's not a barrier anymore, right? You have many choices to pick and choose from. So it is important that you select the right strategy, and there are diverse data sources that many of the enterprises are dealing with. So a multi-platform strategy is essential to kind of leverage the full potential of your diverse data sources. Now let's talk about why enterprises need multi-platform data strategy. Again, as I said, there are diverse data sources and data storage solutions that you're dealing with. You have to process structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. And you'll talk about like 3 V's of data: velocity, variety, and volume. Those are some of the challenges that you're dealing with, right? So you have huge volumes of data to process. There is variety in the data and velocity. Of course, you have to kind of handle the performance challenges that you're dealing with your data processing day in and day out. And you also need the flexibility to use the right platform for your specific workloads. Specialized tools and softwares. Many of these data platforms, they provide tools with some out-of-the-box functionality, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. If a particular product or a tool is solving the solution, it's kind of solving your problem, why not use it? Why do you want to reinvent the wheel? And this is really important, particularly if you're an enterprise where you're a publisher of data and subscriber of data from multiple third-party data sources. Native data sharing is really important. And clean room solutions. If you have sensitive data that you want to share, but you want to be in full control of how your data is used by the consumers, clean room is the way to go. And many of these data platforms are making exclusive agreements with data providers to make the data available on their platforms. Again, it's not that you cannot get that data from that platform and ingest into your platform. You can do all of that. But if you want to hit the ground running quickly, native data sharing, clean room solutions provide you an added advantage so you can hit the ground running quickly. Scalability. Ability to grow with your increasing data workloads. You need the infrastructure to scale. Your business demands are changing, so you need a scalable platform. And how many of you love open source community? Awesome. I heard a loud cheer yesterday when Tristan was talking about open source compatibility with dbt. And this is where all the innovation is happening. So you don't want to lock yourself to one platform. You want to make sure the platforms that you're using are open to open source standards. And of course, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to minimize the vendor lock-in. So you're kind of mitigating your risks, and you have better control and negotiation power. At Fox, we strongly believe that multi-platform data strategy is a way forward. As a result, we modernized our tech stack. We redefined our architecture to ensure we adapt this multi-platform data strategy. And dbt plays a very important role in that because of its seamless integration and transformation capabilities. In the next slide, we're going to talk about a lot of that in detail. Fox is one of the early adapters of dbt. We started with dbt many years ago, back in the Fishtown Analytics days. And we have partnered with them throughout their growth story. So the first thing that we really need to talk about is the cross-platform compatibility. dbt has adapters for most of the major data platforms: Redshift, Databricks, Snowflake, BigQuery, you name it. And yesterday's announcement about data mesh to manage cross-platform dependency is a huge shift in the right direction. Portability. Ability to port your code from one platform to another platform with minimal changes. So you develop once, but then reuse it in multiple platforms. Again, it's not seamless yet. You need to make some minor changes, particularly if you're using some database standards that are specific to that platform. Otherwise, with dbt, you should be able to easily port from one platform to another platform. Simplified data transformations. You need good SQL knowledge. You can hit the ground running. Right? And centralized data quality. This is really important, particularly when enterprises are dealing with data quality challenges. Having a centralized framework, and again, you don't want your developers to code for a lot of this exception handling. The common test cases can be configured and reused across the platforms. And the slim CI makes your continuous integration a possibility. And the most important feature here is the lineage. If you haven't leveraged dbt lineage, I would encourage all of you to use that. It's such an incredible feature that helps you kind of track the end-to-end data flow, identify the issues, troubleshoot quickly, and also kind of gets to the column level so you understand the dependencies and you can perform your impact assessments faster. And Fox is part of DBT's customer advisory board. One thing that we really love about DBT is they're customer focused. They listen to their customers. So in the last CAB meeting, we talked about the importance of multi-platform data strategy. And here we go. Yesterday, there were some major announcements on the cross-platform strategy, data mesh, iceberg support. These are huge. We are really excited about these recent keynote announcements and really looking forward to partner with DBT to kind of take this to real world use cases. Now let's dive into our data strategy. Our enterprise data lake comprises of data sources both from first party, second party, as well as third party data sources. And we implement the medallion architecture for data processing. We classify the data into bronze, silver, and gold. Bronze is still close to your source data with some data standardization, cleansing, masking the PI information so that you don't expose your sensitive data. Silver is where the data unification happens, the data modeling, all the dimension models to kind of identify your main dimensions, measures. And this is where you unify related data sources together. And gold are your curated data assets that are ready for business analysis and business consumption. As you can see, we implemented a domain-oriented mesh architecture. We classified the data into different business domains. Like all ad sales data will be part of the ad sales domain, performance and ratings. Being a media company, we rely on third-party measurement providers like Nielsen, Video Amp, ComScore. All of that ratings data goes into the ratings domain. Our ad tech platforms, data from our ad tech platforms goes into the ad tech domain, and engagement, how the consumers are engaging with our content. What is the reach? We measure all of that in our engagement domain. As you can see, so we classified the data into all of these different domains, so it is easy to discover the data, and there is a single source of truth. If you're looking for a specific KPI around your reach, or your frequency, or performance of your shows, you know where to go. It's easily discoverable, easy to find. And going to the access layer, Fox AI is our experiential platform. This is where we surface actionable insights for our executive team. And of course, our BI platform, which is built on Tableau. This is where all our BI analysts, the reports, dashboards are all created. And then for advanced analysis, we provide direct access to the data platform for deep dive analysis, data science use cases, all of that to consume the data. So one thing that you'll notice here is, again, we have like 3 different data platforms we were talking about. Databricks, Redshift, Snowflake. We initially started with Redshift, and then about a year back, started Snowflake, and Databricks has been our data processing layer. And DBT goes across all these platforms. And again, you have these platforms, but if you want data moving from one place to another, you don't want to unload the data, copy the data into a different platform. That's where you're creating data silos and redundancies. And that is where the Iceberg open table format comes to rescue. Really excited about the developments in this area. With Iceberg, we're able to achieve interoperability. We create our data assets in Iceberg, and then you can leverage those as external tables in Snowflake or in Redshift. And we, being a media company, we rely on a lot of third-party data. So we leverage native data shares on Redshift, as well as on Snowflake. We use clean room solutions for audience measurement, particularly on the digital advanced audience calculations and all of that. So we'll talk about how Fox realized this strategy and then leveraging DBT along with other modern tech stack. So we're able to transition from a massive enterprise data warehouse to a multi-platform architecture. So we are kind of moving towards a distributed architecture. We're able to seamlessly integrate data from diverse data sources and platforms. And we classified the data into business domains, bringing the data close to the business with standardized KPIs, single source of truth. And this is where our focus is right now. So eliminating data silos and redundancy across our platforms and to achieve interoperability. With this, we're kind of estimating about 30% reduction in our storage and computation costs and 25% reduction in transformation time and improved scalability. Such a big impact. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, right? No journey is easy. You'll go through a lot of ups and downs. You'll learn in that process. So there are several lessons learned during this journey. So while implementing the multi-platform data strategy gives you the flexibility, things can get out of control very easily if you don't manage it well. So you need very careful planning, and your architecture, don't overcomplicate your architecture. Keep it simple, stick to the basics, and take a platform agnostic approach. So the thought process, okay, so I'm building this on this platform today. So tomorrow, if there is a change in direction, or if there is another platform which is giving you much more flexibility, you should have the ability to easily port your code with minimal changes. I'm not saying it's like seamlessly porting over, but you'll still have the ability to kind of re-platform. And ensure interoperability. I can't stress enough on this. This is the most important feature of all of this. You really need to focus on interoperability. Just having different platforms will not solve your problem. In fact, it will add to your problems if you don't manage it well. If you start creating data copies, if you start unloading the data from one platform to another platform, and you start building on each of these platforms, you don't have single source of truth, you have data silos. So it's really important that you focus on interoperability. Build once and then reuse everywhere. And it's also important that the platforms that you're choosing, they're compatible with each other and also to the open community standards. Data governance is really critical. Right from the beginning, you need to have properly defined governance policies and procedures so that to ensure like your data quality, compliance requirements are all met. You need to have proper RBACs, role-based access controls, to manage your access across these platforms, and compliance, security. those are key. So you need to ensure you have proper governance policies. And last but not least, the agility in data operations. You need to be agile. You need to adapt your strategy with the changing business needs as well as advances in technology. You can't just like assume, yeah, so this is our strategy, we logged it, and then we move forward. Like things are, as I mentioned, the data landscape is evolving so drastically. And with AI, you'll see a huge shift. So keep an open mind and adapt to the changing data strategies and still kind of ensure that your architecture is platform agnostic. That's it. Any questions? Yep. Mhm. Good question. So the data processing, all of our data processing happens in Databricks. That's the platform that we chose for all our data processing. And you'll see Redshift. So we started with Redshift. So all our enterprise data warehouse is in Redshift. So again, when you're bringing a new platform, you have the opportunity to move everything over, or you'll have the ability to kind of like build the new domains and the new platform while still kind of retaining your existing platform. It's not like that. That's the beauty of multi-platform strategy, right? You don't have to move everything over as long as you have connected those and you achieve interoperability. That is key. So what you see in Redshift is what we started with, and then Snowflake is a recent addition. So no, so the DBT is actually the this is, yeah, the code transformation happens in DBT. So we use DBT with Databricks, and then let's say if there are any external data shares into Redshift or into Snowflake, you don't want to bring the data back into S3 or like any of these platforms. So you can leverage the data because that's already pre-processed and it is data shared with you. So you can use the data that you process, your internal data, and enrich with the third-party data that is data shared or via clean room solutions. So that's the thought process. Yes. Yeah, sure. So we are currently leveraging Unity Catalog with Databricks, and Snowflake recently announced support to Unity Catalog with Iceberg, so we were able to create external tables within Snowflake. And we have Atlan, we have Atlan as our catalog of catalog that sits on the top, which kind of is more business facing to kind of provide an overview of all our assets. That's our landing. Think of that as our landing zone where users come in, learn about all the data assets, and they can. And there is an integration between Unity Catalog to Atlan. Yes. We use Astronomer for orchestration. We used to have self-hosted Airflow, but it's too much to maintain, so we moved to Astronomer, which is a managed Airflow. Yes. Yeah, so that's one of the important lesson that we learned, right? So when we brought in Snowflake, right? So there are some related data assets. So we need to unload the data from Redshift and then started moving the data into Snowflake, which is kind of adding the load on your Redshift because you need to do a lot of these unloads and then move the data into Snowflake. The idea is to kind of make the data quickly available in Snowflake. That's a short-term approach, but our long-term approach was to eliminate those data redundancies. That is where Iceberg comes into play, right? So when you create the data assets in Iceberg, you can leverage that in Redshift as well as in Snowflake as external tables, and then you can process it. You don't have to copy the data in. And with Iceberg, it gives you the much better performance than like standard Parquet or anything. So that's a game changer for us. Yeah. We are in that journey. We are converting all of that into Iceberg. So back in like third quarter of 2022, so we did a lot of POCs on Iceberg, and then we thought, okay, this is our standard going forward. But then when we started on that journey, we quickly realized that our data platforms, our partners are not kind of not there yet, because if you look at AWS, it's with Glue Catalog. Databricks, they have started working on Uniform, but it's not GA yet, right? Snowflake recently announced Polaris Catalog, right? So we had a lot of these conversations with our partners, and we know this is going to happen at some point, right? So the last Databricks Summit, Snowflake Summit, the focus was more on Iceberg, and same thing with DBT. So we are actually having active conversations with our partners, and now that we have that cross-platform compatibility, we kind of doubling down on that strategy, converting all of those assets into Iceberg. Right? I think we're at, we still have time. So if there are any, yep. Correct, yes, yes. Mhm. For streaming, we are using DLT, Delta Live Tables. Again, we used to use a lot of Kinesis process earlier, but now we are leveraging Delta Live Tables. Yep. Yes. Sure. Yeah. So DBT, we use DBT to perform transformations across all of these platforms, and we use it for our data quality checks. We also have Monte Carlo, that's the data observability tool. So we integrated DBT with Monte Carlo so that we don't repeat those tests like the data freshness alerts, volume checks, and referential integrity checks and all. We leverage DBT for a lot of those features, and documentation, create like all our data processing, like except for the ingestion, happens in DBT. Yeah. Correct. Yes. Yeah. We also use Fivetran for out-of-the-box connectors for ingesting. Let's say if you're ingesting data from an application, from an Oracle application database where you need change data capture handled, you can still code for all of that. That's one of the point I mentioned earlier, right? You can accomplish all of this on any of these platforms, right? But which is the best? Like you can still code for the change data capture. You go through all the redo logs and all of that. But do you want to do all of that, right? While Fivetran provides an out-of-the-box connector where it can handle change data capture and gives you the data. Same thing for Salesforce integration. We leverage Fivetran. Now Salesforce is coming up with, yeah. So that's what I mentioned, right? So we need to keep an open mind and then constantly adapt our strategy. Yes. This is more data team, but our ML team consumes data from, we are like a central data platform team. Our ML team consumes data from us. They leverage Databricks for a lot of these ML use cases and AWS services. I would say about 70-30, 70 in DBT and then 30%. If we have like huge data processing, that's Spark, right? We don't want to handle that with DBT Databricks SQL. So we are leveraging Spark processing for that. Okay, I think we're at time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you.